Hi, I'm Chase Stanton. I'm the station manager here at Saline's Community Television Network, Channel 18. Today I'm joined by Gary Roubal, who is the city superintendent and engineer for Saline. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, Chase.
Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
So to start out with, could you just give us a little background on how you came to be in the position you're in now?
Well, I interviewed and was offered the position in 1987.
Okay.
And so it's been about 25 years almost. And prior to that, I worked in the city of Albion as the assistant city engineer.
Okay.
And did much of the same work except for the planning and building and zoning. And I was there for about 13 years. So I graduated from University of Michigan in December 1974. So basically I spent the last 37 years in two similar positions.
Wow. And how has your time here differed from before?
Well, here in Saline is more responsibility because I took on the duties of overseeing the building department, working with the planning commission, working more directly with the city council. Even did a stint as the liaison to the parks commission early on before that separated out. But also responsible for zoning enforcement, engineering services, and cemetery co-sexton.
Okay. And that kind of started into going into detail about what you and your department do. If you could expand on what you do on a day-to-day basis.
I think a majority of the work deals with the infrastructure, and that would be the engineering and capital improvement function. We plan most projects out over like a 2, 3, even 5-year time span. It takes time to plan out a project, arrange funding, go through design, bidding, and so forth. So we do a lot of advanced planning in our engineering. It starts with the capital improvement plan, which we present to the city council each budget year.
Okay.
That gives us a visualization of what our projects may be over, let's say, a 6-7 year period. And then from that, we can determine what revenues are needed, what project expenses may be, and sort of plan out a workload over a 7-year period so that it becomes manageable, especially when you have a small department and you want to spread things out a little bit, make it more manageable, easier to handle. So we just finished our 2011 street and water main projects on Tower, Nichols, and Wallace.
Okay.
Very successful project, similar to the Willis Road project in 2010, which was very successful. And we are in the initial design phase of next year's project, which would be Woodland Drive from Maple to Industrial Drive.
Okay. And you had mentioned that you're a small department, only 2 members. What kind of challenges does that bring up?
Well, basically it's a manpower in the office challenge. So we've had to limit our office hours as far as people stopping in to ask questions or pick up information or forms, although we do have forms in the lobby they can just take if they can find them. And so mainly we have to have office hours, an hour and a half in the morning, an hour at noon, and then an hour in the afternoon. Okay. People can visit us by appointment.
Okay.
We'll work them into a schedule if they want to talk about needs for, they have zoning inquiry, they have a planning inquiry, if they want to plan out a new project, and have any particular questions.
Okay. Is that fairly common for people to be coming in on a day-to-day basis to work with you, or?
Right. We get contact various ways, sometimes by email.
Okay.
We're on the Saline website. They can reach us through that by email. We get a lot of telephone calls, especially people who are out of state.
Oh, okay.
Have questions. Some of your finance companies, your mortgage companies, they want zoning information. Some of those are as far away as Texas.
Okay. Wow.
And so we have to, tell them how to find things on the website and answer questions directly to confirm what zoning is for properties.
Okay. And you had started mentioning some of the upcoming projects and projects you had just finished, but we have a list here of things that will be coming up in the next year, possibly even longer, you had mentioned?
Right. Besides the Woodland project, we have looming out there the MDOT project on US 12.
Okay.
Which, actually is a pre-planning now, was for 2014, but they may move it back to 2017, but we have to look at this in a long-range fashion for funding, for proper design, coordination with MDOT, since it's their project. We have our utilities in that right of way, and we have our traffic in that right of way, and certainly will affect our downtown. So we will work closely with MDOT, make sure it's best product for the community.
Okay. And could you go into a little bit more detail about that project for anyone who's not familiar with it?
Well, MDOT plans to reconstruct US 12 at some point
Okay.
between 2014 and 2017. And our interest, as I say, is we have an old sewer there, we have an old water main there. They have replacement needs.
Okay. And so looking at this list of some of the other projects we have coming up, under engineering, planning, and projects, would that have included the MDOT project, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. After engineering, I think our biggest function is in the planning realm.
Okay.
And in that respect, I serve as the liaison to the Saline Planning Commission.
Okay.
It's a 9-member board, which they have responsibilities that are fairly serious for the community as far as the proper, planning and design of private development as well as, some public development. For instance, the Planning Commission recently approved the preliminary site plan for a BP station,
Okay.
the reconstruction of the BP station on the west side, which will have a drive-through restaurant with it. They approved several months ago the Leap Hair expansion in our industrial park, 33,000 square feet, and which is underway right now, will be constructed over winter. So anytime you see a development in the city, whether it's commercial, industrial, residential subdivision, or condominium, that process would have gone to the Planning Commission to check, make sure that it complies with the city master plan, the zoning code, and all the other standards in the code that would apply to a project. So it has proper water, sewer, parking, lighting, landscaping, and then there's the multitude of permits that are needed to go with all of those. Not just city building permits, but you have to have actually a number of state and county permits if you're going to perform construction.
Wow. So I'm assuming this can be a time-consuming process.
It is, but we've learned to, work it in a fashion that it takes only 30 to 40 days for most projects.
Wow.
Because we have a standardized format on the land use application packet for the developer. We walk them through things just as we walk through things with our citizens on their zoning and building permit needs. We don't waste any time. We just get right to the topics at hand, major concerns, and just give them the pertinent information. And we help them as much as we can.
Okay. And so, speaking of zoning, if you'd like to go into more detail about current activities involving zoning.
In the zoning realm, we are currently developing 2 new zoning districts in the downtown area.
Okay.
And with the 2 districts come under downtown form-based code.
Okay.
And right now the downtown is just zone C1. But we've recognized, and a number of communities have done this already, they've gone to a form-based code, which deals with not just evaluating uses or proposed uses on just, you're set back so many feet and you're limited to this use.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does, it describes uses and expands uses and is more interested in their placement and their appearance and their function in the community to be more user-friendly for pedestrians, traffic, make it more walkable, more interesting features.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't just become a geometric standard, it has more people-oriented standards, more environmental standards.
And has that just been recent year or so, or how long has this transition, how long have you been thinking about this?
We started the process last spring.
Okay.
We hired Carlisle Wortman from Ann Arbor, who was our consultant planner, And we held a community idea session, a charrette you might say, or what they call a workshop. And this year they had a new term for it. They call it a planning fair. So, but we had a good turnout, about 20, 30 people. And from that, the consultant was able to draft form-based code ordinance based on the input he got, and that was distributed to stakeholders and staff. And the Planning Commission, they set a public hearing for December 14th at the Planning Commission meeting for the first hearing on the downtown form-based code.
Okay. And I take it public opinion so far has been favorable from what you've described?
Well, so far, I mean, we'll get the major input at this first hearing.
Okay.
We've had input from staff, administration, Planning Commission, up to this point, and it's been offered to stakeholders, and they've come up with a few questions. But majority of any of the revisions or new concerns will come up probably after the December 14th public hearing.
Well, there's always some negative input at a public hearing.
Well, I mean, it's, it may seem negative, but in our job, and I've learned over the many years that there's always ways to turn negatives into positives.
Right.
Because maybe they're not really negative. Maybe they're just looking at it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can turn a negative into a positive and still meet the goals of what the person is trying to get across, plus what you're trying to get, what you're trying to develop in your ordinance, or what you're trying to accomplish.
Definitely. And you had mentioned that's December 14th. Where's the time and place?
Well, it's 7:30, and that's at City Hall in the council chambers.
Okay. Earlier you had mentioned being cemetery co-sexton.
Yes.
Would you like to go into more detail about that?
I'm the co-sexton of the cemetery with Diane Hill.
Okay.
Now, Diane performs the function of actually handling the interments and the selling of the graves, and working with the funeral homes and the customer end. And I work in the development and expansion end and the perpetual care fund.
Okay.
So what I've done over the years is we've found different ways to expand and make the cemetery useful for serving the citizens of Saline, and so they will have space available for burial purposes or for cremating use. And the two newest major developments are the recent completion of the niche installation. A niche is a small space that you put a cremain urn in.
Okay.
And so we have 139 niches installed inside the Oakwood Mausoleum.
Okay.
And that installation was only a few weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And as soon as we finish the rules and regulation changes before the City Council, which will be probably in December, at that point we'll be able to actually offer the niches for sale and use by the public.
Okay.
And then the second big project, which we bid out, which we had designed and bid during this year, will start next spring, and that's expansion of the a couple divisions of the cemetery on the hill near US 12, where we'll build out 3 existing divisions with underground crypts. Those are double and single vaults.
Okay.
So we actually will install 88 vaults.
Wow.
And then cover them up. And then when people buy a space, the vault is already there. And it saves all the work and the mess of disturbing grounds one at a time.
Yeah. Definitely.
And plus you can get 2 people in one vault. It's like a duplex.
Yeah.
They're one above the other. And so, but it's a popular thing now. And our first experience with that was in Division 70, which was about 2003, we installed 70 of those.
Okay. What kind of planning goes into a project like that?
Well, I mean, we've done research on the web, and then we try to find companies who build that type of facility, so we can get good contractors, and we can find a place to buy the vaults, and then you have to coordinate delivery and purchase, and you coordinate it with the maintenance activities out at the cemetery. Of course, you have, and our crews are trained in that, and so it's always a challenge when you introduce something new.
Yeah.
But this is something that it's it's more user friendly for the public, especially the family who needs the services of of a vault or a burial space. And
Yeah.
And again, it's nice to have space in Saline,
Yeah.
especially if you live here or want to be buried in Saline.
Yeah, definitely. We also have building department down, regular activities that you go through. If you'd like to expand on that.
We have one full-time building inspector who is Tillman Taylor.
Okay.
So he's here most of the time that I'm in the office too, and so it's a 40-hour week, sometimes 50, sometimes 60.
I
If
know
you
how
count
that
evenings
goes.
and weekends. But and then we have 3 part-time inspectors because they're mechanical, electrical, and plumbing,
Okay.
and those aren't needed full-time because they're on call just to do inspections.
Mhm.
You know, the building inspector can, and I, you know, when he's not here, we are the ones who issue the permits because
Okay.
it's on a computer, it's on a BSNA program, and so the computer actually manages the permits. We arrange for inspections through the computer
Okay.
and schedule inspections for the part-time inspectors. So they basically work in the field and go to the site, do the inspections, send the results to us. It all gets recorded, so in the end, a person can get his certificate of occupancy.
All right. What kind of education is involved in terms of, being qualified for building inspections? I know you mentioned that you do them yourself occasionally. Kind of background does that involve?
Well, for most of my duties and responsibilities, I actually, it was my curriculum in college at the University of Michigan. I was in municipal management
Okay.
and municipal engineering. There's actually 2 divisions of civil: municipal management, municipal engineering. I took some of each, and that's where you take some planning, some architecture, just street portion, street paving portion, structural, and you get and economics. You study engineering economy because you need to know the cost-benefit ratio and life cycle analysis of items, and even some decision-making is based on a model.
Okay.
And so you learn critical path methods, and then you apply all of that in the municipal management, municipal engineering career.
Okay. And then lastly, we have here kind of general city administration. If you'd like to talk about, I guess.
In that realm, like I say, besides doing reports and presentations to the Planning Commission, for the City Council, I attend City Council meetings because one of the things I do is I obtain engineering services that who require contracts approved by the City Council.
Okay.
And also I do the capital improvement plan, which goes to the City Council. Plus, City Council from time to time will want information and studies performed that would help them in the decision-making process. So, we provide them information that they need that would be helpful in the whole process.
Okay.
And then, they ask for certain tasks to be done. You might say to respond to maybe a citizen's inquiry at the meeting. We'll have to respond to that. Like I say, and then I work on the budget as far as not just the capital improvement construction budget for the following year or the fiscal year, but for the operating budgets for both the engineering department and the building department. Make sure that we have enough money to operate the office and get our work plan accomplished.
Well, it seems like your department handles a wide range of different tasks at any one time.
Yeah, you have to be able to work on like 5 different things in an hour's time because people will call, you'll get an email, you'll be working on setting up some pre-engineering for a project, and you're working on rules and regulations, and you sort of just juggle all of that, and it's a good way to get variety if you like variety.
Yeah.
And it keeps you thinking.
Yeah. Do you think has it changed over the years that you've been working for the city? Has there been some pretty drastic changes in what you do or your department?
I don't think there have been drastic changes. I mean, we've gone with the flow of the changes. For instance, when we work with agencies such as the Michigan Department of Transportation because we have to program federal and state funding that we use on our roads, and we have a project every 2 or 3 years, and so, their process changes. Well,
Yeah.
When they call and tell you, well, now you have to do this online. So it's a little bit daunting since I used a slide rule in college.
Yeah.
But, we've been trained in all of that, so it's really not a problem. And, but, there are changes that occur. We just sort of go with them.
Yeah.
When they introduced the complete street standards, we adopted that, and we build complete streets. Sort of like Willis Road is a complete street because it's got environmental aspects, it's got bike lane considerations and additions. We had a drainage project involved with that, and it worked out quite well because it involved working with the Parks Commission and at least 5 different state agencies.
Wow. A lot of people to work with at once. And so is there anything else you'd like to mention about your department or information people should know that they commonly might mistake or not know?
No, just that developers and consultant engineers have found that we are basically easy to work with. We've cut down red tape, bureaucracy, so that the process is fairly simple, and we actually help them through it. Because my philosophy has always been to help people through the process, not be a roadblock.
Yeah.
Because it goes smoother all the way around, and you're more likely to get a good product for the city of Saline if you help pave the way for it.
Yeah.
Which means get them going in the right direction, give them honest, upfront information about what they can or can't do. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people will comment that they appreciate our candor.
Yeah.
Because it's no need to let them go down with a wrong idea, and then have to circle around and come back to what really is possible.
Yeah. And speaking of information, you'd mentioned the city website. Is there other contact information you'd like to mention?
Well, the website is one way, and calling in certainly is another way. And a lot of people just like to stop in because they like to talk face to face, obtain maybe a record out of the files, because sometimes it's helpful for people to come in and they want to see what is on their property file if they're going to do an addition. For instance, they want to see, well, what was done in the past, what's on file, where's my boundaries. Sometimes those records will be there, although it should be on their mortgage, but some people actually come down and want to see if the information's on file before they plan out a project on their own property.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that'll probably wrap it up unless there's anything else you'd like to mention.
No, just
No.
I don't know when this is coming out, but have a great Thanksgiving and Christmas.
All right, yeah, it should be out before then, and I'd like to thank you again for coming in, and thank you everyone for watching.
This has been an SCT